The work the SAG Foundation is doing is enormously important. From the up-and-coming actors to the veterans like myself, the foundation is here to help all of us.
As fellow artists, we've all been there. It's crucial that we remember where we came from and help out however we can.
For over 25 years, the SAG Foundation has been the industry's best-kept secret, and we're out to change that.
As natural storytellers, it's great that we have the opportunity to give back through the children's literacy programs.
A disaster like Sandy really brings it home with how crucial the SAG Foundation is. Their donation drive helped so many people in need.
The seminars and workshops are crucial. Working together is what makes us better.
The SAG Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies solely on donations to keep these important programs free for everyone.
The SAG Foundation can't do it alone. We need you.
If you need help, ask.
If you can help, give.
We're all in this together.
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 Together, everyone benefits.
Join the cause.
Back now.
Good evening once again. Hello. Hello to everyone on the live stream. Thanks for tuning in for tonight's events. Again, my name is Dennis Baker. I'm the Life Raft Program Director. A couple things I didn't mention for our in-house audience. Those question cards. Rose, who's in a kind of a purple sweater volunteer, she'll be walking up and down the aisles collecting those. Don't be afraid. If you got a question that you wrote down, pass it down the aisle, get it to her, and then she'll pass it up to me. It's all good, and she'll be up and down to do that. A couple more things before we get started is we are trying to get the word out. There's so many people that we find, actors, who don't know about the SAG Foundation, and so we are on all the social media websites, twitter.com/SAG Foundation, facebook.com/SAG Foundation, and the most important one we consider is youtube.com/SAG Foundation. There you can watch the live streams. All our videos are being archived. Tonight's event immediately afterwards will be archived there. So if a panelist says something and you didn't get a chance to write it down, go home, you can relook at it, you can share it and everything like that. So they're all up there for you to view. So we ask you to like, share, all those great things that you do. The last thing we need to say is we are a nonprofit organization, which means we don't get your grants we don't get your initiation fees or dues. Let me repeat that because it's a misnomer. We do not get your initiation fees. We do not get your dues. We are grants and donations. So to your right is a box that we have there. That's a little cash box. Something our grant people said to us is we would love to see people who participate take more of an ownership. So part of us showing them that you guys care so much that you want more events to happen is by maybe giving a couple bucks or going to the website. There's a donate button there that you can maybe do $5 a month. Ways to think about it is this. Every seat for every event costs us $16. So if you can give $5, it's a discount for you, and it's the best deal in town for everything that's happening. We average around 35 events per month between CAP, Life Raft, and Conversations. So there's plenty of events to attend at a really good deal. I guarantee you it happens every time. Some of you will write, we want more CAP events because those are restricted. You can do only ones every 3 months. We get that. Part of the deal is we're a small staff, and staff have to populate that. They have to be there. So if you want more events, maybe chip in, and dollars equal more staff equal more events. See how the math works there? Genius, I know. I'm a math major. I'm excited for tonight. I'm going to have our panelists come on up. And while I say this, I'm always intrigued by how to make the subjective more measurable. We work in a subjective field, and how can we, in that subjective field, figure out how to track, how to understand, how to better get a grasp of this thing that we call acting in the entertainment world. So before we jump into all of that, I want them to introduce themselves and share kind of who they are and kind of what they do. So Kevin?
Hey everybody, how you doing? Excellent. My name is Kevin E. West, and I am a longtime veteran of Los Angeles. Most of my career has been hour drama television. However, I did start out as a stand-up comic, as well as doing improv and sketch. And there she comes in a fabulous way. It's Heidi Levitt sliding in. I am also the president and founder of an organization called the Actors Network. I also created ActorBizGuru.com, which is an educational video series, as well as the co-author of an audio program called The Actor's Guide to Getting the Job, along with Celebrity Golf Tournament and other such things, but have been in the city for a long time. and worked for a long time, and am happy to be here and happy to speak for both Dennis, SAG Foundation, and in my desire to consistently try to assist, as I like to say, so that you don't have time to make all the mistakes, learn from others. So that's why I'm here.
Hi, my name's Jodie Bentley. I'm the co-founder of the SAG-AFTRA. We're actually based in New York. SAG-AFTRA is bi-coastal. We've been coming out here to LA for 3 years now. And I'm actually moving here as of July 1st to be joining all of you. So I'm very excited for that. Bring my New York energy to LA. Very happy. So I am a working actor in New York. My background is a lot of theater, musical theater, done a ton of commercials, and really now making the switch to film. I've done a lot of television as well, but moving out here for film. And the Savvy Actor, what we do is we coach and empower actors on building a business plan. Every small business owner needs a business plan. They wouldn't open their doors without a plan to turn a profit. Yet we do that as actors and artists all the time. So we really have created a business system and structure, and we have our book, which is selling internationally, called The Savvy Actor Career Manual, which is the first ever business plan for an actor. We do coachings, we have weekend intensives, we have a lot of free stuff on our website, so you can go check that out there as well. And we really are just about empowering you to take the power back in your career, because we tend to give our power away a lot as actors and artists. And we tend to also not have a lot of structures and systems in place, which is why I'm very happy to be here with Dennis and the foundation to share with you some tips, tools, and techniques to be a little more structured and to maximize your time. So glad to be here with you.
Hey everybody, my name is Ben Whitehair. I am from Colorado, came out to Los Angeles a number of years ago. I used to be a homeschooled cowboy. I don't do that anymore unless they pay me to do that on TV. And I have a background in business and a lot of social media. So I started a web design company that I did for a while and did a lot of web design. I also have a company called Tuition Specialists, which helps out-of-state college students save money on college and basically get in-state tuition. So we're on track to save kids like $30 million. And so have a background in business and entrepreneurship, and am a giant nerd and have been studying productivity and time management and all this stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight for many, many years. And as an actor out here, obviously having film, television, commercials, all of that, and whatever Heidi will put me in. And then I also teach social media. So I have social media classes that I teach for actors, and I'm working on a digital version of that. I also co-founded a blog called Playbills vs. Paying Bills, which we had one of my buddies in New York and one in Chicago talking about the 3 major acting cities and all of that, and had a couple 100,000 views on that. And then also I'm a co-founder of the LA Actors Tweet Up, which is a networking event that we do every couple months. There's also one that my friend started, one in New York. There's one in London, a UK Actors Tweet Up. I think there's one in Dublin now and other countries that I'm not even sure about. And it's basically, a networking event for actors to get together and share these types of tips and actually get together in 3D, because 2D is great, but 3D is better. And yes, that's my background. I have the social media class, social media, the number 4actors.com, and all information on me at my website, benwhitehair.com. And I'm a lifetime member of the Actors Network, absolutely. Most of the stuff I'll be talking about, I learned from Kevin, so,
Thank you, Dennis. I'm sorry I was late. It's nice to see you, Kevin and Ben, and to meet you, Jodie. So I am a longtime casting director of film, television, commercials, theater, but mostly film, I would say, is the bigger thing that my specialty, I would say, right now. But I like to do it all, and I believe
Hey,
we
Heidi,
can.
I'm a little closer.
Okay.
Perfect.
And I believe, like you are actors, you can work in any media, and as well as the internet is the web series, which is just a huge new venue. So I started in New York in the theater. Those are my roots. I came out here and went to graduate school at the AFI. I'm now an adjunct professor there teaching second-year students about casting, which is really great that they will have some of those tools. And I started an app called Actor Genie, which is an iPhone, iPad, and available on Amazon and Android as well. And the app was started for a couple of reasons a few years ago. A lot of my friends were coming in who were my generation and had been series regulars, and they had done a lot of work, but they felt disenfranchised in this new World Wide Web of so much information, and yet their agents weren't communicating necessarily as much because now agents were clicking and not even communicating directly with casting directors in quite the same way. And the whole framework of the business changed. And a lot of people would call and they'd like, I don't really know what's going on. And I would well, it's actually all out there if you would search for it. But a lot of actors didn't want to necessarily register with every website, and so an application became sort of an anonymous way for them to kind of go on and just get a quick view. It is not a way for you to get the job. It's a way for you to research and have tools in order to better position yourself to get that job. I am still principally a casting director, so I want to be the editor, the curator, and the information giver to you. There's many websites out there where you can register if you want to try to submit yourself, but this will at least give you a leg up on what's real, and it'll have sort of my point of view on it. So I've been continuing to do that for the last 3 years. We were on iTunes as a hot app for like 2 years in a row, and we're constantly developing and changing it, and I've been really enjoying interacting with people through that and through social media, because I've been able to even cast an actress that I met through the app. I got to cast in The Artist. Another actress tweeted at me, and I got to cast her in the Nina Simone movie. And this has been really amazing to me to be able to reach out and find you. I think you also have to understand that casting directors, we want to find the best talent. That is our job. It is about the search. We're hunters. And so when we're looking for something that's really hard to find, we want to reach out in every way that we can. And for me, that's been really empowering, and I really believe that I want to help and empower actors to better do it themselves.
Let's give her a hand, and everyone as well. Thank you. So we're going to jump right in. First question I have is, in this LA entertainment world, there's so many types of jobs actors could pursue. 1 hour drama, like you talked about, Kevin. Half-hour comedy. There's various types of voiceover that we could do. So many things to pursue. This mindset of maybe a hyphenate, multiple hyphenate, all these types of pursuits, does so many options actually, is that conducive to productivity, or does that hinder potential productivity for an actor?
That's awesome. Should stand on that more. I think it's a severe hinder, and that's just my personal opinion, because I sat down years ago and I came up along the way of the evolution of myself in Los Angeles and also the organization. I came up with 43 different professions that we would define as, I'm in LA to be an actor. And when I say that, guys, I mean that there are 43 professions that have to do with both animation voiceover and straight voiceover and equity theater to music videos back in the day, etc., to that a performer could be paid to do. And there's somebody someplace only doing that. And that makes it a profession all by itself. And yet, naturally, we are simply usually in the place that we want to go, well, I would just like to read for something. And we make ourselves open to everything and really pursue nothing. And so it's not a hinder by definition, Dennis. I just think that it's a hinderment because between now all the websites and the actual legit breakdowns, we are just constantly overwhelmed with this one thought. I could do that. And I'm not saying that you can't, but to try and pursue 5 or 10 legit professions at once when you haven't even gotten anywhere in one, a university wouldn't allow you to do that, and there's a reason for that, and they don't even call them necessarily, they call them majors and minors and that sort of stuff. But the reality is I think that it's a hinderment, Dennis, just because it causes us to spread ourselves really thin immediately, and chances are for a good number of time get nowhere. But the problem is we see other people doing the things we think we could do, and so we literally go, I could, and then, and 3 years go by, you don't know what happened. That's my comment on that.
Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. We become kids in a candy store sometimes with all the options and choices that we have. But I really believe that we can only focus on 3 to 5 goals at a time without going into overwhelm. And those goals, 3 to 5 goals, also include life. Oh, what about that? Relationships, finances, financial goals you might have. That includes all of it, right? So we really need to get specific on what you're focusing on. But it's hard because, like you said, we see the prototype of actors who are doing it all. But they started with one thing. They started spinning one plate first. Get that one plate spinning, get it spinning well, then we can start focusing on something else. Like the fastest way to get somewhere is a straight line, but we tend to dissipate our energy out in 7 different directions. And you guys, I get it. I did that for years in New York too. You know, but it wasn't until even this year I started focusing myself and went, nope, film. Within 3 months, I became a producer, produced my own film, shot it in New York, in LA last week, and it was a $50,000 short that Warner Brothers was tracking. Awesome, great. But I had to put focus into that. Right? So we want to really focus and laser focus on what you want and don't dissipate that energy all over the place. It is a hindrance.
What they said. I think the other piece is really getting clear on what it is that you want. And one of the benefits of having all the different opportunities that I found was you have an opportunity to come in and like actually explore like, okay, what do I want, right? And maybe I do want to do animation voiceover, or maybe my real passion is only on half-hour sitcom, or whatever the case may be. So it's definitely easy to go down that road and spend 10 years trying to figure out what you want. But there's I don't know, maybe give some kind of time limit, whatever. But the opportunity is there to say, okay, I've got 43 different professions. What do I want to do? So that I can then start actually focusing on whatever those specific areas are and really going after that. And then once you've decided that and gotten really specific about what it is that you're actually most want, then it becomes easy to say no to other stuff that seem like a great opportunity. And this happens to me all the time. It's like, oh, hey, well, we're doing this thing. Can you help produce this or do that? Or we're doing this project. Can you come on and hold the lights? You know, whatever. And when you are clear about what it is that you're actually wanting, what your actual goals are, then you can say, well, does this meet up with what my goals are? And if it does, great. I'm going to do that. It's going to be advancing me towards that. And if it's not, I can say no and have the power of actually freeing up that time to spend on the things that I actually want.
I disagree a little. So my feeling is that there is everything out there, and it's really hard. And most of you people come in and you were like, you want to be a movie star. You want to be the lead in that TV show. Nobody comes in and says, I want to be the co-star. But that's the point, is that you need to figure out the building blocks. And I think you can have different focuses and figure out your niche, figure out what sticks. But think about it as Legos. You got to start somewhere and build it up. But I don't think, because it's so complicated right now and it's so difficult in feature films right now, I think for new actors to break in, that it is important, if you feel to you to identify where you think you fit. You should watch those web series and figure out where you might fit if one of them you think you can see yourself in, or TV shows that are out there, or research all the shows that have gotten picked up and look at those casts and figure out, is that the kind of place that I could see that they might have a side character? And that's maybe because I want to be the star of that guy's show, but if I fit into that sensibility, I'm going to start at the bottom. So you kind of have to explore everything, and I do agree that you have to limit it, but I think it's really hard to come into this business and saying, I want to be a film actor, because that doesn't just happen. That really is something that you have to build. And from my perspective, I love people who have a lot of theater background. I believe that these people who have trained theatrically, and they can translate more for me into a movie. So it's totally fine with me. In fact, it's probably preferential that I'm going to look at their credits and I'm going to look at what plays they did and who they worked with and what school they went to. So it's kind of about building it for me. And I think that you have to, it's all about curation and navigation. And so you have to sort of do some of that work and figure out what are the different places. But I don't know if you can just focus on one for me, because I think it's too difficult. And it might be just because of the kinds of things that I work in are pretty high end, and it's hard to get into them just straight off the bat.
Dennis, can I say something? let me put it to you guys a different way, because there certainly was no part of me that was saying only one, but let me put it to you like this. There's a vast difference in being available to something and pursuing something. This is my point. I don't believe that you individually can pursue 10 of the different professions. And what I mean by this is, how many people would like to do television? Just raise your hand for the heck of it. So you'd like to be a game show host. Okay, well, that's television. This is my point. You can't say television. Who wants to do daytime? Okay, I got 4 hands, 6. My point is, guys, I was available to go on hosting auditions. I was available. I've done every daytime show except for Days of Our Lives. I still haven't figured out what their problem is yet. We'll have to look into that. But what I didn't do is that was something that I allowed one of my 44 past representatives to get me an audition for. It wasn't something in the vein of the 3 to 5 goals and in the vein of what this panel about tonight of productivity. It wasn't one of the things that I carved out and labeled time to go pursue. And that's the difference of what I mean. There's a difference of being available to everything and doing nothing, hoping for everything and doing nothing, versus having a game plan to actually make headway, like Heidi said and Ben said and Jodie said, in terms of getting where on a handful of things. I would say yes to an audition for certain things that I wouldn't spend time carving out to pursue. And that's the difference of what I mean by being productive while you're kind of sussing out what you like and kind of building what you want. Because it is really difficult to be mentally pursuing every single thing we think we'd like to do. And I would agree with Heidi, to pursue just one or focus on only just one, especially where this business is today versus where it was in the late 80s or the early 90s, would be mildly silly, but you can't pursue it all or you'll be exhausted in 6 months.
Great. I like you. I like that you use the word pursuit. I think that's going to come up a lot this evening in different various forms. I think pursuit and productivity is a close cousin and relative. In that vein, I'd love to hear from you guys. So kind of a two-part question. What type of actor activity do actors need to pursue more and maybe pursue less? Like, what are things that actors are doing now that maybe if they step back or did less of, they have more options of doing something else instead that maybe in the long run might be beneficial, but in the short run, they're like, I don't see how this is going to work or make any sense.
I don't need to go first. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ben.
I'll go. I'll make something up. I think partly it depends on what we were just talking about, which is like, what do you actually want to do? Right. So it's a little bit, I'll say some more specifics, but depending on what you want to do depends on what you should then be doing more of. And kind of like we were saying in the previous question, it's really easy to say, well, I want to do this, but then, say for example, you want to be a game show host, but then you're spending all of your time like clicking and submitting and doing this other stuff that's not directly moving you towards the people who are working on that. So the specifics of it, I think, are, and what actors, I think, in general, I think should be doing more of, is the research and preparation to figure out who the actual people are who could give you your next job that you're most right for and that you most want, and meeting them as another human and not just an actor who wants a job. And Kevin has talked a lot about this, a lot of this where I'm going, and I'm sure Heidi has some great thoughts on like how to actually do that and not be like a crazy actor stalker, because that's not beneficial either. But so really coming down to the core of, it is a relationships business. I'm, by the way, assuming that you're a brilliant actor. If you're not, be spending more time on that so that when those opportunities do come, and that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Heidi does call you and you come in, that you actually go in and she's like, oh my God, that was amazing. As opposed to, that was good, but I just had 20 other people who walked in and did that.
I think it's important to remember that everything that we do as actors must have a reason, purpose, and strategy behind it. Everything. Why are you doing it? What's the reason behind it? What's that purpose? What's that must that you have? A lot of the productivity stuff happens when we're living in the shoulds. Oh, you should do voiceover. You have a great voice. You should do this. You should do that. And we go, okay. And we try it, but it might not be that passion or that must. So we want to have that reason, purpose, and then what is your strategy to implement it, to get it? So whatever you're focusing on, we want to have that reason, purpose, and strategy, because we only have so much time, energy, and money to focus on things, right? So I think that's where we do get tripped up, kind of what you were saying, Ben, is we start to put our focus, our time, our energy, our money in places that aren't forwarding our goals, that aren't forwarding our must as actors, you know? And to get even more specific, I think one of the biggest things that I tend to see my clients maybe falter on a little bit, that we could all do a little better, is our follow-up. If you're going to a networking event and you meet a bunch of people, how are you following up with them? Or are the business cards just sitting on your desk for like 2 months and you don't do anything with them? Because that's not a good strategy, right? You've just wasted that event. You're not maximizing those relationships, because this is a business of building, creating, and maintaining relationships. So I think what we all can do more of is following up with the casting directors when we meet them, or at auditions, the networking events that we go to, and really having systems and follow-up systems in place to continue to build that relationship and that momentum with that person.
I got 2 and 2 for you. 2 more that I'd love to see people spend more time doing, and 2 that I would recommend you not do, but be really careful about how much time you spend on it, or at least be conscious of it, you guys. I'm a big perspective person after all the time that I've been here. I would unequivocally, within moral and safety bounds, recommend that we spend as much time as we possibly can auditioning for everything, and I mean this from an audition proficiency standpoint. Because what we do, as Joe Rich, one of the founders of CSA, said to me 22 years ago, what we have to do in that room isn't fair. But if you can't do it really well, there are 50 people outside the door who can. He didn't say 500 and he didn't say 5,000, but she only needs 1. And there are 50 of every single type in this room. So I would be a huge advocate of utilizing all of these projects that exist now. I mean, back in the day, guys, all we had was like an experimental film, Heidi, and like student films. And I did 14 student films when I first moved here for that reason, and along with all the ones that I auditioned for. So I would audition for more things to get proficient at the script breakdown process and your time in that room, which is not the same as class. And so the 2 that I would say be careful about being class addicted. I'm not against class, okay? I've known people in my time in LA that were in 4 and 5 classes at once. Now, aside from financially what that took, I'm just saying be careful about being class addicted. And here's my last comment, which I'll probably wind up commenting on later on in the evening. Be careful, guys, just because we do live in a different world today. And as I use this phrase all the time, just because something's possible doesn't make it a good idea. We're all very much in the create my own content, make myself a star mode because we can. Just because you can buy a flip camera does not make you a filmmaker. And filmmaking is something that we need to respect out of all the different departments we give Oscars for. And I'll see a lot of people spending an awful lot of time believing they can literally be an 8-department hyphenate while starring in something. When what you really need is a 1-minute demo reel that's going to knock her socks off. So I'd be really careful in the bite off more than you can chew phase, because it's so prevalent, it's so easy, it's so addictive, and again, 3 years go by, you're like, what the hell happened? So those are my 2 and 2.
I don't know if it was just 2, but okay. Okay, so I would say don't send out all those postcards. I feel like that's something that actors do all the time. Not against you sending out postcards, but target it. Don't send 5 postcards to the same office necessarily. That happens all the time. And if you're sending the postcard to that casting director, do it because you really think that there's a part for you there, not just, hey, come to know me. Because it's not going to get seen. It will get tossed. And I think that that's a waste of your time and energy and money that you're spending on these postcards. I definitely, like getting it if I'm looking for something. But if I'm not looking for something specifically, and you don't know what I'm casting, and it's just sending a general thing, I think that's kind of a waste. Now, acting is a practice, right? Just like if you were a lawyer or a doctor, it's a practice. So you do have to practice. And you do, and whether or not, you're going and making a film with a friend who has a great camera, or what you're doing in a theater group, or you're doing in class, you still have to practice. I mean, I agree with Kevin that don't think that you can just make, a great film because it's really cheap to do that today. But you do need a great reel, and if you don't have great material, it's really easy for you to put this together cheaply and have a great reel and be active about that And I think that that's something that actors, unfortunately, don't all have great reels, when I think now's the time that's easier than ever to put together great material and do it well, and have a website. You need to have it. You need to have your reel up on IMDb, because that's sort of the biggest place that we're going to find it. And so you want to make it easy for everybody to find you. I think your own blog/website is important, because we all do, in some sense, want to showcase ourselves more individually than we're going to do it on IMDb or on any other of the websites that you put yourself up on. So those are my kind of thing about just be careful about what goes out there. You're putting out that message, and
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin agreed in the sigh.
To add one thing, I know when I got here, I was really unsure about like what do I actually do? Say I've got the mindset, say I know what I want, whatever, like what do I actually do today to move my career forward? And I mean, we could spend, the next 3 hours talking about that. What I think happens, though, what I see is that the easiest things to do for actors trying to break in are clicking and submitting yourself and casting director workshops. I'm not saying you can't get benefit from those, but they're the easiest thing to do, so everybody does them. And if you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're going to get the results that everybody else has. So, I mean, I personally am not a fan of CD workshops, and that's a whole other panel, and I don't, whatever. You can talk to me about it if you want, or read my blog. But I think the specifics of it are just being aware of what everybody else is doing, and if that's what the easiest thing is to do, and because it feels like, okay, I'm actually doing something today to move my career forward, that's great. It's probably better than sitting on your couch and eating Funyuns, but just getting really, really clear about like what is your actual goal, how are you going to be different in the way that you're approaching that than the hundreds of thousands of other actors who are doing the same thing. Same thing with a mailer or whatever else it is. How are you going to do it differently, do something differently, whatever, than everybody else?
Oh, Dennis, you realize I actually didn't say 2 and 2. I said do more auditions, but I left out the second one.
I was waiting
He
for
kind
him
of
to
touched
finish.
on that.
Yeah.
My second one, guys, has been my thing for 20 years. We don't meet enough people. And I'm sharing with you, again, we could spend hours on how you do that, but I'm just sharing with you that in today's crazy social media world, you talk to somebody for 20 seconds in 3 days, it's worth 50 submissions to them. We simply do not meet enough people. And it's exactly what digital world has done to this community, and it is making us further and further away from the people who actually need to encounter, because again, we all have enough types of us, but someone's going to remember you longer if they've at least encountered you briefly. And again, doing that's a different conversation, but I would audition more and meet more people.
And they're hitting on it. This is the iceberg, guys. There's so much here that's going to be hours and hours, so we're just touching on things that then you guys can research, dig deeper on, talk to your friends about. So yes, we could spend 8-hour day just on half of this stuff. I'm curious, a couple more things. We've been talking about this. I'm always interested in distractions. Again, this idea there's so much, and the goal is to focus. What are some maybe general actor noise, distractions, things that make you go, oh, I'm going to take a right here, when we should stay on the path, because it might not look like there's immediate results, but we've got to keep on the path and keep going for long-term benefit.
My favorite in general, guys, is just other professions within entertainment. It's a hard thing to call those distractions. I'm not giving anybody a hard time for wanting to be a writer or wanting to be a director or having been a singer and a dancer, but these are all professions that people win awards for. And I'm just one of those guys who, Heidi said, the business was tough when I first met her. She wouldn't remember. This is 20 years ago plus. It's brutal in a whole different way now. And there's a level of arrogance to believing that because you read a book once or had a friend that did a web series in their backyard over a weekend, that you have the proficiency to kind of do all those things at once. So I would just say one of the biggest distractions we have is trying to be the writer, director, producer thing, blah, It's really easy to call ourselves that because there's no legal bar to pass. But I would encourage you to understand that there are thousands of people out of work in every department you could think of in a film or TV show who've been doing it for 20 years. So I'm never shutting anybody down. I'm on your side, guys. I'm a fellow artist. I've done a lot of stuff. But be careful about casually taking on stuff that will take months and years out of your life because you were wearing 7 hats and you have no experience in wearing 6 of them. So that would be my big, I could go on forever about distractions in LA besides traffic, but that would be one that kind of is really prevalent the last 4 or 5 years.
I remember meeting you, Kevin. But what I think is, the distraction thing is big, and I'm kind of victim to it. So, and I have worn many hats. I'm a producer, and I wrote a movie called Delivering Milo, which stars Anton Yelchin, which is so bizarre that right now I'm casting a movie in New York. When he was a little boy, it was like the first movie. It was him and Albert Finney and Bridget Fonda, and now he's playing a 23-year-old writer in New York for me with Olivia Thirlby and Glenn Close is his mom. So, I mean, it's just kind of crazy how we tend to want, as artists, to create. And I have, probably to the detriment somewhat of my career, it's been like a bit also like dodgy in that I like technology. So I was like, wow, I want to create this app. And I did that. But I think that it's true what he's saying is like, I started to focus more when I had children, because the most important thing to me is my family, in doing independent films because I can control the time of when I was working. So that became sort of a niche. So, and I think that you do have to focus. Now, I have produced other movies too, but I take on sort of the role of a creative producer because I don't have time to go to the set. I got to cast a movie too. So I had to compromise along the way, but I've still been able to wear these different hats. The name of my company is 3 Chapeau Productions because I wear many hats. But I think that he's right to a certain extent because, you know, I had to make certain choices like you're going to have to make. And it is true that we live in a time that has so much information out there, and that's part of the reason I'm Actor Genie. I created what I used to do when I started in the business in New York. I read Variety and Hollywood Reporter every Thursday and Friday. They had production reports because I wanted to know all the things that were going on because maybe I knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody that could introduce me to that movie. And that doesn't exist anymore. So like when you peruse what Actor Genie has on all the listings, it's sort of that little thumbnail of what's going on. And it is, I think, really important for you to know every television show and every film and, you know, theater if you could, or whatever the area that you are. And it's hard to find that, but if you can just sort of, you know, you don't have to do that every day, but I do think it's important to weekly, I know Ben does this, right? You look, right? You know what's going on. And I think that that's an important piece because then you know what to pursue. So you have to figure out, yeah, I can't do everything. I might have to do a little bit more than just the actor piece because I have these other interests too, but you do have to figure out where you're best suited, and then you need to focus on that and stay with it.
I'm going to jump in a little bit more specifically. I think I tend to forget this, that time is finite and that we only have a certain amount of it. And so the idea of scheduling time very specifically is highly important for productivity. We talked about this a little bit in the green room, and we're going to kind of go through some areas where time can be sucked away. So let's talk about life and day jobs, living in LA and relationships, driving, traffic. How are ways that you see actors need to rethink their living situations to help them become more productive in their business life?
Do you want to start, Ben?
Sure.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest distraction, I think, is life and setting up your life in such a way that you can stay in the city over a long period of time to get the results that I'm sure it is that you guys are really wanting. And the number one reason I see people leave is because, you know, they had this idea that they're going to get an agent and book a series within 6 months, and that didn't happen, so they weren't meant to do it, and they peace out. If someone told you they I'm going to move to Massachusetts, I'm going to live next to the med school, I'm going to do the doctor thing. If I'm not a brain surgeon in 6 months, I guess it's not meant to be. People would say you're insane, because it's insane. That's crazy. No other business, No, ask anyone who started a company, did you think that you'd have like $10 million in 6 months? Now, is it possible? Totally. There are 1 or 2 examples where that happened. But you're not really setting yourself up to win if that's the mindset. So, bringing it back to the distractions of life and how to set yourself up to win for that, it's, I think, setting up your entire life in such a way that, again, you can sustainably stay in the city and keep every day doing things that move your career forward. So, living in a space that you like living in, having relationships so that you're spiritually happy being here in this city and not lonely. She doesn't want to see that in the audition room, that you're lonely and desperate and don't have any money and haven't set up your financial life such that you can pay rent.
And don't bring your suitcases to the audition. That one.
I'm moving if I don't get this. Like, so.
Ben, I could have sworn I told you not to do
I know.
that.
I've learned. I've learned. So yeah, I think, you know, I mean, I can get into specifics of all those pieces, but I think the broader picture of it for me is like getting your life, have your life work such that you're happy, that you have friends, that you have a community, that if you really want to live by the beach, that you live by the beach. And the financial piece, I think, is the number one piece where I see especially actors new to the town at the beginning of it struggling to figure out, okay, how do I actually have some sort of income stream that allows me to pay my bills, buy new headshots, all of the things that our business requires, that are investments that don't necessarily get paid back for a number of years. The same is true of any business. Surprise, you're in a business and it takes investment before you get money back, generally. If you can get mom and dad to be investors, awesome. More power to you. Have them call me. But in the meantime, setting up your life such that you can actually stay in the city and pay for the things you need to pay and be happy.
And yes to all of that. And you know, if you're pursuing commercials and voiceover, and why have a 9-to-5 job? Because you know the agent's going to call you the night before for an 11 a.m. audition. If they're not going to let you go from your day job, that's the kind of things you're just going to start thinking about, right? So I agree with everything that you said. And even one thing that I do, if I don't schedule it, it doesn't happen. It just doesn't. You can go, I'm gonna work on my sides every day. I'm gonna work on my voice. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. But if you don't actually schedule it in your calendar, when your friend calls and goes, hey, you want to go to the beach, or you want to go here, you want to go there, you're like, yeah, sure, why not? It's not in my calendar. I'm free. So schedule stuff. Schedule office hours for yourself. Even if you schedule a half hour a day in your calendar that's just working on your business, I guarantee you that's 2.5 hours a week of pure focus that you probably don't have right now. Schedule that, right? And another thing I like to do for business in terms of structuring is I like to give each day a theme that I know. It's like Marketing Monday. On Monday, I'm going to do all my marketing. Tuesday is Financial Tuesday or whatever. You know, you can give yourself a theme. Of course, you can do other things that day, but you give yourself a theme and a focus so you know that over the course of a week, you're going to hit your craft. You're going to hit your marketing. You're going to hit your business. You're going to go to a networking event and see people face to face. But if you don't give yourself a structure, guess what? No one's going to give it to you. So you got to do that for yourself as well, but include that life in it, include all of that, and really schedule all of it for yourself, because we need to be well-rounded, happy individuals in this business, but we also need to give ourselves a structure to support us.
Guys, in this city, I kid you not, there are 500 ways to make $30,000 to $40,000 a year in terms of some kind of a base way to survive and live and not be the desperate actor that's Heidi says hi and the story of their life comes out in the first 2 minutes. You have to, for every subject we could bring up in the area of life, there's a pro and con to every one of them. There's no right, there's right for you right now. And you have to be willing to change, you have to be flexible, you have to be willing to possibly go do something on a weekend to learn something, to give you an opportunity to get a job that is less impactful. I mean, guys, 20-some years ago, guys, it's amazing. We would get 3 days notice for a commercial audition. Now I get a phone call, go, can you be in Venice in an hour? Do you have a plane? No! But the thing is it's like the Joe Rich comment, we all face the same struggle. There's no right to living, and Ben and I were laughing about, there's no right to living at the ocean or right to living in Studio City. There's right for you, but there are pros and cons to all of these choices, you guys, and you have to own them. Because if you can be productive in your car, we all face traffic, we all, and of course, it's the day you have a big audition, the 405's on fire. I don't know how they set the 405 on fire because it's concrete, but it happened to me one day. Wow, the 405's on fire, that's amazing. It was way before, Carmageddon, so I have no idea how they did that. But that's just Murphy's Law. That stuff will happen. So I'm just sharing with you that the biggest thing to me about this question from Dennis's perspective is know yourself as well as you can know yourself all the step along the way. Because who you date, who you spend time with, who you hang out and have coffee with, why you live in what part of the city and where, has got to be something that I believe in this particular profession that forces us to drive in about a 25-mile typical diameter that could take on some days an hour and a half or 2 hours to go from Venice. I love the audition when you're in Venice and it's Burbank and it's 3:30 on a Friday. And that's just getting there. You got to get back. You have got to find a way to stay fueled and not want to do drive-by shootings. And it's a full scope thing. Family, friends, lovers, jobs, and your physical location along with your automobile. And it is something that I think that, just think of it like this. When you first go to college, they make you go through a campus orientation. If I had my way and I could take every single actor today, I would make them, I would force them. You would not be allowed to if you didn't spend 6 months learning yourself, your life here, and the damn city. Because I had to drive on the 101 till I was almost to Oxnard before I realized I'm going the wrong way. And that's when I first moved here. So it's just difficult. And I would encourage you to really make it important to you. And the great thing about this profession in the city, you can start over with that stuff anytime you want and do it better the second time around. So if you feel frustrated in those areas, please take inventory of it, for sure.
And Heidi, does that come in the room? Do you see that? Do you see actors who don't structure themselves in a way that they can have ease in the room and confidence? And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you would all know that yeah, you're going to bring in that day into the room, and your job is to come into the room and do a good job and not bring in, all the baggage, because that's not what we're there to see. We're there to see the character that you're bringing in. We're there to see the character in you and you in the character. That was something Mark Ruffalo had said to me once about how he perceived auditions, and I think it was on our app. But it's true. I mean, you have to, the audition, I talk about this a lot, the audition is part of the actor's job. If you hate auditioning, don't be an actor. I mean, it really doesn't work. Maybe when you get to the point of being a movie star and you don't have to audition, and it's true that there are some actors who don't audition well, and I sometimes find myself explaining to certain directors because I've seen their work so much so that I know that they get really nervous, and that does happen. But you better be awesomely talented to get beyond that to get the job. And there are some people who are, but 99% need to actually deliver in the audition. So that is your invitation to any job. So like any invitation to a party, we want to see you there because you're happy to be there, and we're happy to have you. That's why we invited you. So if you come in defensive, if you come in like, why am I here? Sometimes people come in and they say, particularly today, I think because of the way that people schedule sometimes their auditions, some actors will come in and they'll think like, why am I here? Everybody else looks really different. And, that person probably who is second guessing why they're there probably won't do a good job for the casting director. Maybe the casting director did make a mistake, but think about it. Maybe if you still went in and you weren't second guessing, you might blow them away. And I think that that's important to know.
I would add, to get specific and tangible about how you kind of know about all this stuff, track it. Dennis talked at the beginning about like, how do you get from sort of the subjective pursuing an acting career, which is subjective, and kind of what we're talking about is like you have to create some sort of structure for your life on top of it, because there isn't one for this career. If you want that, go be a lawyer, go in corporate America, and there's a ladder and all that, and you can ask all the people who just have been fired in the last few years if that still works. My guess is you don't necessarily want to do that. That's why you're in this room or watching. Right. And so you get to impose some sort of structure onto it. And my thing constantly, and I took this from sort of my business background, is track it. Track everything you do. Track all of your data, specifically how you're spending your time. Like literally, and just do it for a week even. Track every 15 minutes of what you did that week and then put it into categories. And at the end of the week, you guys are looking at me like I'm crazy. I promise you do it, you'll be astounded. Yeah. Hopefully, like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was doing so much. Probably, oh my God, I only spent an hour and a half doing anything for my career. And just being realistic about how much time it might take to actually do something, right? 40 hours a week is like the typical job. So if you're spending less than that, just being realistic about what that means in terms of your pursuit. And I get it, because in acting it's different, and a lot of times we need another career that's not acting, that's providing the bills and all of it. So I get that there are the challenges, but at least being honest with yourself so you have a basis to track and say, hey, well, how am I doing? And then you can adjust it, right? Well, what if I change my schedule around this, or if I start setting my day up this way, or if I meditate in the morning, or if I go to the beach on Saturday? And as you track it, you'll be able to see, oh, I'm actually changing the results, because otherwise the results that we look for as like the only indication I'm doing something right are pretty spread out. Like booking that one job, or getting the agent or the manager or whatever, it's like those benchmarks can be spread out over years. So it's like, how do I actually track my progress day to day, week to week? You know, if you're a company knows how they're doing every day, week to week, not like, well, in the last 2 years, I think I mostly did okay and I got an agent. Cool, but like that could have happened in one day. So how do you actually track how you're doing?
You have to add travel time to every single thing you do to and from.
Oh, I'm learning
Don't,
that.
don't, Jodie, girlfriend, oh man,
I
on
miss
the
my
way
New
here.
York subway right now. Can I just say that?
I'm telling you, you'll wonder why can't I get more done? Because you're skipping how long it takes to get to class, chatting afterwards, and going home. That's how long class took, and it's 2 hours longer than you have in your book.
I just wanted to piggyback off what you said about the tracking thing too, but the benchmarks along the way could be sporadic of the bookings and this and that. So I want to ask this question, and I urge you to go home and write down your response to it. But what is your definition of success? What is it? Is it being the star in the feature film? Okay, but how's that serving you on a daily basis? What is your definition of success for you as a human being on this earth, personally in your relationships? And really define that for yourself, because that's what's going to keep you going. Because if all we're trying to do is plant that one seed for that feature film role, well, how are you sustaining your own motivation and happiness to get there? And that's when we tend to get bitter, we get jaded, and we fall off our path, or we leave and move to Massachusetts or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So what is that definition of success for you? And really figure out what that is, because everyone's definition is different.
I think Kevin wants like to instantly like teletransport.
Do what?
Teletransport. He doesn't want to be in his car very much.
Oh, yeah.
And I agree with you. You know, I actually take jobs based on location too.
That's how I date.
Yeah, that's how you.
I do.
But guys, it's also how you should see friends. Do what Ben said, just like nutritionists do. Track your calories. Track where you spend your time. I'm not against the friendship thing. I'm just telling you that in the first 5 years you live here, then you live here a second 5 years, you'll have 50% of the people that you're in contact with in the second 5 years, because you'll look down and realize that you're making appointments to go across town when, unfortunately, the business we're in, it's like, you know what, all my people in Santa Monica, I'll see you when I have an audition over there. Most of the time. It's just it's not geographically undesirable, but it's geographically intelligent. It's just a difficult city, you guys. Yeah. And there's nothing that any of us can do about it. But you have got to protect yourself.
We have to navigate it like that as parents, too. I mean, I choose where my kids were going to school based on where we lived, based on where the office was. I mean, this is just life. This is life in Los Angeles. And you can, to a certain extent, you know, control it. Not completely, but you can check out, you know, where are most of the studios, where are the most of the appointments.
2 tools. I use Rescue Time. RescueTime.com, it's free. There's a professional version, and it tracks everything you do on your computer. Oh, right. So, and you can categorize it by, and everyone's like, oh, I don't want to know how many hours, it's going to know how long I'm on Facebook. But yeah, you should know that, because then you can go, oh my God, it's 4 hours, and then you might actually cut it down to 2. God, I teach social media. I'm a fan, but there's a limit. Yeah. And for all of it, so Rescue Time is a great way to know like how you're actually spending your time online. And then, I mean, I use Google Calendar because it's free and it syncs. So if I'm on my phone, I can always just put it in my calendar. I always know it's always with me. I have it here, then at home, and then at the end of the week, I can look and, you know, maybe color code the different categories of my life and be like, wow, I spent a ton of time as an actor this week, or wow, all of my time was all socializing this week, or it all went to my business, and I can just even at a glance see how I'm spending my time.
And start with 112 hours. That's what we get. 16 times 7. I give everybody 8 hours sleep. This is a 7-day-a-week business. You got 112 hours. And start deducting and find out how many of you get to the end of the week and like, well, I'm like at minus 22, which of course is impossible unless you literally sleep 3 hours a night. Do that, because it's eye-opening.
Great. Actually, a lot of these questions coming in is talking more about apps, productivity. I'm going to segue into the business part of acting. So let's talk about things like databases, contact lists, master contact lists, mailings. How do we, all the things we're supposed to do as actors, how should actors track it? How do you track it? What applications do you use? How do you know that, okay, everything that I'm doing, whether I met Heidi today, so I want to mark that and make a notation so every time I know how many times I've met Heidi in a year, or another casting director, or whomever it may be, how are you guys tracking that, or how should actors track all that kind of activity?
Do we have a projector?
We don't, so
Just
you're going to
kidding.
have to paint the
Just kidding.
picture.
Go ahead, Jodie.
I mean, it's vital to have, I like to call it a maintenance list of people that you've met or interviewed with, auditioned for, and have that maintenance list of people. Categorize it: casting directors, producers, could even be costume designers that you've had, and productions you've worked on, whatever. Have a list of everybody. So even if a friend says, hey, do you know any costume designers for this film that I'm working on? Yes, I do. Here's 5. And then you're referring people. Because it's always about referring other people. It's helping each other. This is not a go-it-alone business. So we want to have the database for that, but you also want to have it because I'm a big fan of reaching out to my maintenance list and letting them know what I'm doing. If you don't let people know what you're doing, they're going to forget about you. They just are. A tool for mailings that I use, I know Kevin uses it as well, is send out cards. Love it. Great tool to do postcards, thank you cards, all of that. I'm a big proponent of gratitude in this business. As actors and artists, we tend to ask people for so much. What do you think of my headshot? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? What do you think of that? Just thank people. Thank them. It's a powerful gift you can give someone to just thank them. So thank the people who've helped you in your career and in your business. But I would definitely send out cards. Also, it's a database tracking tool that I use. You can also use Excel. I think it's just great. Evernote can be a great tracking tool. You can actually have photos of people in Evernote to remember what people look like after you've met them. Yeah, that's all I got to say with that.
I completely suck at Excel, and I'm never going to learn it. I just decided that a long time ago, and it's just simply not going to happen, Ben.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
I just cannot no. Going back 20-some years, when I started the Actors Network, guys, I basically, for me, I overthought everything, so I wanted to simplify this. When I came up with the idea for myself of a target list and a master contact list, this is the difference. Target list was a stranger. Master contact list was somebody that I had encountered in person or that I knew had seen my work. That was the definition of the two. And I just simply used Microsoft Word, and to me the columns were very simple. And the way that I tracked it was I had a target list for each different type of person, as just discussed here. And underneath that, they were alphabetical, and I had a key code of what I was doing towards them, like DO for drop off. Oh yeah, did them a lot. Did them a lot, baby. Headshot, HS, and I would just take 2 columns, and I would be able to put next to Heidi Levitt, I'd put 517 HS, and that meant that I sent Heidi a headshot, this is back in the day, on May 17th. That's how, and then Master Contact was not about types of people, it was just alphabetical because this first column was someone's name. The second column was what kind of person they were, because I had encountered them, read for them, or knew that they'd seen my work. So it was just A through Z, and the second column was television casting or film casting or television producer, etc. And then, same thing, maintenance, I would just write the inception date would be when I first met them, because they went from that list to this list. And you have to maintain it. That's the biggest problem I see, going back to distractions and things. We don't maintain it. We don't remind people we're still here. Guys, it's our job. It's not Heidi's job to remember us. It's our job to remind her we're still here, because actors leave this business every single day.
I don't track, but no, but I do no, because what I do is much more. I write comments. I see people. I do keep hard copies, and obviously in my computer now as well, of the actors that I've seen. And it is true to a certain extent. After many, many years of doing it, you have lists. I really do rely still on my memory And I do. I mean, even like The Artist is 20 years of my career. There are people there that I knew in New York when I was an assistant. And it's important that I go back and look at all of my lists. I always tell my assistants, like, I have books, I call them the book of lists. And I mean, yes, and it was started before computers, and it's really important to go through, and I like to start for every project and really have the time to think through and make these extensive lists. And the problem is that people don't do that so much anymore. And from my point of view, from doing that and going back through my old auditions, that's sort of how I remember and I bring people back in. And it is important, though, that sometimes, like recently, I did a big campaign for Transamerica for somebody that I had gone to film school with, a famous DP, Janusz Kaminski. And I got to cast like 40 people or something. It was a big spot. And I probably 80% of them were people that I already knew. And it was, but not everyone had kept in touch with me, and I realized I always feel so guilty. Oh God, and then I see the person like following week, oh, I should have brought them in for that. And so this is where it comes down to you guys, because they should stay in, you should, if you know me, if we've worked together before, then you should stay in touch. I mean, it is important. I think that if you've worked with someone and you haven't worked with them for a long time, they like to hear from you again. You know, to know what you're doing, because maybe it will come in handy. And I love to rediscover and recast people that I might have cast 20 years ago. And it's happened. I mean, I just did a movie now that's shooting in Utah, and one of the leads of the movie was a kid in a movie that she and Jennifer Connelly was their first movie. And of course, I'm always nostalgic for watching, oh, look at her all grown up now, and she's playing the mom, and she was, you know, a 12-year-old girl. So I think it's important, and I do connect with those people. So if you have worked with a casting director before and they have cast you, those in particular are the ones that you need to stay in touch with, because they will remember you. And maybe they're not working right away on something, but it's something that you need to keep track of that. And I keep track of those actors too that I have cast before. And, you know, of course, staying in relationship for me with directors, I mean, that's important. So I don't know if I have to have lists in the same way, but
Everyone does it their own way.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say to that point, start by doing what works for you and using something that you will actually use. Now, if what works for you is not digital, maybe work on that and get it to a point where what works for you is digital. There's just, I mean, this is my own personal thing, but I think there's so much more. Again, do something. Something is better than nothing. If it's writing it down in a notebook, whatever, and you're actually going to use that and look at it and track it, oh my God, do that. Better than nothing. The benefit of having things digitally and electronically is now I can search it to my phone. So I use Google Contacts and it's synced to my phone, and I'm at a party, I'm like, oh my God, how do I know that person? And I put a note there last, I'm like, oh yeah, I met them at the last tweet up I had, whatever. So the digital searchability of it, I personally use Performer Track to track all of my auditions, my contact database,
Is that
what
an
I
app?
wore. It's not.
No.
It's online, and it does cost money. There are ways to do it for free on your own with Excel sheets. You find your own way. You can use database programs. You know, Evernote is a free app. You can kind of do some, you know, customize it for yourself. I personally like the way they have it laid out, and I'm willing to spend, you know, some money to have it like there, and then be able to sort it and see, okay, track how many auditions did I have this year compared to last year, whatever system you're using, so that I can compare every year for the last 4 years. How many auditions did I have? What kind of auditions did I have? Who were my agents? How many people did I add to my database? And then the other big thing, I mean, I could go on for days about all the apps and stuff that I use, and email me whatever, ask me whatever the
You
things
literally
are.
could.
I could. I wrote a blog post on it. Useful $HIT. I have like a whole list of all my favorite stuff. But the everyone's like slowly spelling out. The other one thing that I started doing is I outsource, and I have Laura Menino, actorassistant.com. I pay her to do my mailings and to manage my database and to manage my target list, because it's not an effective use of my time. It's just not. It's better for me to be in person speaking to you guys, or at an audition, or being creative or whatever than it is for me to be doing something that I could pay someone else to do research on the computer for less money than I make at my day job. I spent 2 years saying that I was going to be doing mailings and keeping track of my database, whatever, and not really doing it, and thinking that one day magically I was going to wake up and spend 6 hours a week doing it, and I just wasn't. So it was like, okay, either A, that's not something that I do, and that's okay. I do other stuff for my career, and that's fine. That's just not something I do, and that's okay. Or change something for me, and that wasn't going to happen. Or have somebody else do it. And when we go back to time and actually approaching this as a business and distractions, when you go through the 112 hours of what you spent in a week, look at every single thing that literally someone else could do. And this may sound crazy, whatever, whether it's your laundry or cleaning your house or whatever the things are, no joke, if really the goal is to have more time so that you can make your career happen, you've got to get other people to do the things that it doesn't require you to do.
I agree 100% with that. There's a great book called Getting Things Done by David Allen. Highly recommend reading it. Just know that it's going to completely put you in overwhelm, and that's okay. Just keep breathing as you're reading the book. But he says, do it, defer it, or delegate it. If you're going to do it, just do it. Don't complain about doing it. Don't call up your friends and yell at them that you have to do it, or don't whine on Friday that you really want to go out for drinks. But just do it. Just do it. And if you don't want to do it, defer it to another time. Put it in your calendar. Schedule it. If you don't want to do that, delegate it to someone else. Love it. I don't do all my mailings and all that stuff either. There's no time. How do we have time to do it all? Find people to help you. Again, I said it earlier, this is not a go-it-alone business. We all need a team. That's why we want a manager. That's why we want an agent. That's why we want a publicist down the line. That's why we want all those people on our team. So have someone to assist you in the area that maybe is a quote-unquote weakness for you or something you just don't have time to do, that you don't enjoy doing. I think it's extremely
Dennis, I promise it's really fast. It's all good. It's really fast. Guys, I'm a big philosophy person because this is a subjective business. It's not flipping math and science. And because we require our psychology to do our art the best we can, the thing about tracking is, because this is not a time and money out business, and because we do live in a place where we always look at just first place and who won and what did I book and blah, blah, blah. Part of doing the tracking thing is this: when you get to the end of each 6-month period or each 12-month period, you have to, again, I go back to meeting people. You got to look at the fruits of your labor that are not related to booking jobs. And if you don't track stuff and you're still not getting anywhere, then you will feel like all this time has been wasted and you'll just be depressed and more Ben and Jerry's and blah, blah, blah. So I'm just encouraging you also from a tracking standpoint that it is a way to not just mark what you've been doing, but can also be a way for you to actually look at the results of your efforts and realize that some of those things that don't pay you, and quite frankly in this business, 98% of them aren't things that pay you. They are part of building a career, and if you don't track it, you don't have it, and you won't remember it.
I'm going to transition into a great thing that you guys are talking about, and the question here is, along with assessing priorities in your day, in your week, in your month, what things do you recommend to actors? This is a question that they do daily or weekly to know that they're being productive.
Research, and if your to-do list is not something that's going to affect it in a direct, tangible way, eventually what's on your goals for the next year, to me, it's not a part of your life.
I kind of forgot the question because I had like 5 thoughts running through my head.
Daily or weekly goals?
Daily, weekly thing. Awesome. What I do for myself to organize daily is I have a thing called the Daily 6, again from David Allen's Getting Things Done. I have my top 6 things I need to do that day. Because our to-do list can be, miles long sometimes, and we look at it and we get overwhelmed even reading the to-do list, and you can spend 15 minutes reading it and go, that's too much. I have 6 things. What are the 6 things that I'm focusing on today? I'm a big proponent, you already mentioned it, meditation. Daily meditation keeps me sane. I'm a type A Virgo. Girl, I need to chill, so that really helps me calm down and help me pursue everything. So for me, that's something I need to do daily. What is it for you that's going to give you your sanity to do daily? Is it working out? Is it making sure you get to walk outside? Is it walking your dog? Whatever. What is something that you need to do for yourself as a human being just to feel like a sane person?
I think the specific daily tasks and whatever are going to vary. I'm a huge fan, coming back to the full of light, there's a book called The Power of Full Engagement, which talks about the 4 different kinds of energy: mental energy, spiritual energy, physical energy, and emotional energy. And if you're not managing all 4 of those in your life, you're not living to maximum productivity. if you're not healthy and you get tired all the time, or you're not sleeping enough, you're not going to be productive. You're just not. Like, sorry, it's science. If you're going through a breakup and your family has issues, whatever, like your productivity is going to go down. That's how the human body works. So managing whatever it is in your life so that all 4 of those energies are managed. And that book has a great look at doing it. When you go to the gym, it's important to both stress your muscles and then recover in order to build muscle, right? And that's true of all of it, right? So for mental energy, it's good that I stress. I'm actually, I'm doing Sudoku or whatever, and that I'm then recovering and, not over-stressing it. So managing your whole life such that way to maximize productivity. And I personally am a huge getting things done fan. GTD is what it's called a lot of times. There's a program, I use OmniFocus, which is kind of expensive, or there's another one called Wunderlist, which is free, WUNDER list. And it's based on the getting things done philosophy, such that you can then have a digital thing that's on your computer and on your phone or whatever to manage whatever those things are for you that you're doing daily on a weekly basis, prioritizing all of that. And I'm also, the other thing, email, right? How many people are like overrun with email like crazy? Yeah. I am a huge fan of Inbox Zero, which is an email philosophy, which is having 0 emails in your inbox. Everyone's like, oh my God, what would my life be like? Chris Guillebeau talks about declaring email bankruptcy. Archive, that's why I'm a fan of Gmail. Archive all of your emails. Maybe send one email to your contact list. Hey, by the way, I declared email bankruptcy. If it's important, send me another email. I've got a new system and I'll handle it. Email is a terrible, terrible way to have a to-do list. And I could go into the studies and the research of how much time you're spending looking at the emails and reprocessing it and opening it and then whatever. It's not a to-do list. It's not a way to manage what you're up to, and your productivity is going to be crappy if you're spending all of your time in your email. So finding a system, whatever that is for you, like I said, I use OmniFocus or Wunderlist or a piece of paper, however you manage it for yourself, to have a system such that the things in your email, the letters on your floor, the piles on your desk, that all of these things go into a place where you actually have a way to manage them, so that then you can actually focus on what are my daily and weekly goals, as opposed to just always constantly trying to keep up with all of the information.
Hey, guys, I made a quick comment, but I'm gonna go philosophy again on this daily, weekly thing. I hate to use an old cliche, but it's true, knowledge is power. To me, for as long as I've been in this city and working and not being a star, which is just okay. This is the only profession I've seen in the world in which so many people exist in the city where it's the Olympics of it, and yet so many people feel completely separate from it. So whatever you put into your life on a daily and weekly basis, please make sure that part of what that is something that makes you actually feel a legitimate part of being in this profession, in this city, regardless of your credits. Because basically, about 97% of the acting community functions in a place down here in a turbine, like a Tasmanian devil, all of us psycho, crazy, busy, overwhelmed, blah, going nowhere near the bullseye. And a lot of that I'm sharing with you guys is the fact that what we don't put into our lives on a daily, weekly basis is research and knowledge. If you're not reading Deadline Hollywood, read it every single day. If you're not doing some of these things like Heidi used to do with the production charts with regards to what directors do and what thing, as far as I'm concerned, when you know who is casting everything, we used to have a quiz at the Actors Network back in the day. This was something we used to do because I wanted people to be more in touch with the reason why they either moved here or stay here. So I would encourage you on a daily, weekly basis philosophically to bring something into your life regularly that makes you feel that you understand not just what the business is doing, but that you're a part of this community and you just haven't yet booked as many jobs as you'd like.
So we hit business, we hit life. We're going to talk about the show part of show business a little bit, and this ties into some of these questions as well. In that, trying to find how am I an actor, how do I function as an actor? We have classes, we have auditions, we do performances, rehearsals. How do we know that it's productive, that we're not just in class because that's what we're told to do, but actually making it a part of something that we know is producing in us good craft? Does that make sense? How do we not make it a waste of time?
Well, there's a result at the end of it. I mean, you know, you're yeah, I mean, it's about your, one of the things in that week of doing all these things is to be creative. You are artists, so you need to be creating. And if the creating is doing a play reading in your living room, that's okay to me. But you also have to do that. And I think that what we're doing is, it's all part of that process, right? So how do we know that we're getting there is, are we creating work? Maybe it's only going to be seen by your parents, but you feel like you're creating something that you're proud of. If it's a monologue, if it's a scene, if it's something. I mean, you have to be acting. That's what you've chosen to do. So I don't, you know, I agree, like you don't want to take 20 classes, but you should be, if you're not acting professionally and getting paid for it, you still got to be practicing that craft and acting in some other way, if that's what is your profession. And it might be that you do it as in, you know, like that other, you've branched off and you figured out a way you're going to be, do it in a niche and that you're recording voice for a video game. I mean, I have a friend who became a series regular last year on a show, and really all he'd been doing before that for a very long time is radio plays. And that's all. And suddenly he's a series regular lead. And, you know, he had major theatrical credits, but hadn't really been seen on television for a really long time. But that's because he was still using his craft. So, you know, he knew what to do when the time came, and that audition and that role came. He was ready. If you're not ready, then you're going to waste that opportunity when it comes.
1,000 people tomorrow are going to sign up to do radio plays. Radio plays.
Guys, what's one of the two things I said do more of? Audition. I mean, today, between all the modified agreements, short films, ultra low budget, modified low budget, all the new media projects, and all of the student films, when you talk about results for what your craft is doing for you, man, I'm a big advocate of it. I'm sorry, I was a third baseman. I get as black and white as you possibly can, and that's part of tracking this stuff, because is everybody in this room available to audition for all the types of projects I just said? Yes? Okay, so if you're auditioning for as much as you can, you should in those projects be getting callbacks 35 to 50% of the time as far as I'm concerned. And if you're not, you're going to have to look in the mirror, because those aren't even the projects that are the ones that's not a top-of-show guest star in Castle. I mean, they read 9 people. There's 9 people there when I'm auditioning. 9. There's 5,000 dudes in my category in Los Angeles. They read 9. So getting an audition for that stuff, guys, is winning. But that room, if you don't make auditioning a practice like anything else makes perfect, then what happens is we finally stumble on one of those auditions. It's what she just said about her friend who was doing radio plays. He was constantly, and not in necessarily a class setting, he was constantly using his craft on a regular basis. If you constantly audition, and somewhere between all of the new media ones and all the whatever, you get one that, ooh, is a one-day guest star in Criminal Minds and blah, you won't make an event out of it. Because if you make an event out of it, chances are, and it's not a Johnny Mathis song, you're liable to not be as good as you were because you made an event out of it. And that's why I'm begging you to take auditions as much as you can, learn how to say no and don't accept everything they want to hire you for, and track how you're doing on the callbacks, because at the end of the day, from a craft standpoint, it's a really good standard in this room as to how you're doing against your fellow people who are kind of in the same place you are.
It is a bit subjective to know
He's not going to hit you.
how how do I know that I'm being a better actor, right? Obviously, there's some subjective nature to it. So what are the ways to actually track it? The one that resonates for me, is the legitimate feedback that I'm getting from industry people who are not my friends. So not my little sister, not my roommate. Though actually, he would probably just be really rude and be like, "Hey, you suck." But the people I don't know. So someone who I trust, right? I trust that I could probably sense, if Heidi came across, she'd be like, hey, this thing is not good because I know her. But whoever those people are for you, random people on the street, whatever, an objective audience to actually give you objective feedback, and yeah, not everybody's going to like it, whatever, but that enough people, would actually enjoy it. And the other piece for me is tracking, my callbacks and the type of projects that I'm consistently improving the type of projects that I'm auditioning for and then that I'm getting called back for, and the level of people who I'm associating with. So not only in my day-to-day life and my actor friends and where their career level is, but also the types of auditions I'm going in for, the credits of, say, the people, of even the AD on the set I'm on. How are the people I'm around doing in the career, and that I'm consistently not only adding people to the people I've met in this city, but that the level of people that I'm interacting with is continuing to have higher and higher credits, as the way that we define it.
Some questions. People are talking about relationships, and I think relationships tie in this in the sense of how do actors not build relationships but are not presenting themselves as needy actors, but are relating as human beings? What is your recommendations for actors relating to casting directors, to directors even, to industry professionals as human beings and not a needy actor who's trying to pitch something?
We are all peers in this business, and you gotta know that. You gotta feel that in your bones that we are all peers. As soon as you get in your mindset, I have to impress them, I have to please them, I have to give them what they want, then we're totally all screwed up. You're totally all screwed up, and of course you're gonna come across as a needy actor. One of the things we teach at SAG-AFTRA is all about branding. I'm sure we hear that word all the time. Brand, 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 and brand. What the heck does that mean? But if you really understand your brand, who you are at your core, you know your values, you know your must, you know your goals, you're clear on that, I guarantee you that when you meet somebody, you're going to be like, hey, this is me, this is what I do. If you like it, cool. If you don't like it, cool. And that's really the place that you need to get to. But it's about you doing that work and that self-work and have that awareness of who you are and what you want and where you're going. Because if you are confident in that, then I think you can relate to people on a human level. Because that's all we need to do in this business is relate to people on a human level. Because people want to work with people they like. Really? That's all they want. So if you like yourself and understand yourself and what you want and where you're going, you're going to have a much easier time relating to people and not looking at them as like the key, the gatekeeper, the source of your happiness. Because they're not.
Oh boy. I three points on this. Certainly everything that Jodie said. First and foremost, guys, you have got to be able to have conversations with complete strangers about something besides this business. You just do. I wrote 10 Commandments for an actor a long time ago, but the first one was be proud of who you are and what you do. If you're afraid to say that you're an actor, we Houston have a problem. But in addition to that, you've got to have other elements to you that are not just about you, but about the world, about the country, about what's going on. I'm not talking about being overly religious or political. I'm not discussing those things, but you have to be able to converse with folks because we get into the place that we meet someone like Heidi and we think we're auditioning. Well, you're not auditioning, but you are giving off a sense of your essence and your vibe, and it matters. Conversely, what I've said all along is you actually need to have, in my opinion, a lot of other things to discuss about this business other than you as an actor in it. Right. And that's part of my Deadline Hollywood thing of like knowing your business and not that it's just about you and I have a headshot and please I hope you like me. That's where that desperation and neediness comes from. And the last comment that I'll make on this, that if you'll trust me on this and look at the number of years that I've been here and the handful of times that I was poor at this back in the day when I was younger than him. This is something we do to ourselves when we meet somebody, and we meet people unexpectedly all the time in Hollywood. This is not your one shot at the title. And when you treat somebody you encounter in this business like it's a one-night stand option, you're going to wind up coming, sorry as I make dating analogies all the time because they're absolutely flippin' true. You're going to wind up doing or saying something that strikes them as like, ugh. That thing. You have to be willing to understand that you're going to have to communicate with them later and maintain with them later, and it could take 4 years before Heidi finally goes, oh yeah, them. I mean, that's just the business that we're in. But when we have that, oh, it's my shot, man, I was at the party and dude so-and-so, and it's like, okay, so, and you're in the bathroom. This gets weird. Worst of all, you find yourself in the ladies' bathroom, and you're not a lady. So, careful with the one shot at the title mode. You got to kind of stay out of that.
Just relationships take time. They really do. Just give them time. I always use the dating references because we meet the casting director. We're like, I want you to marry me now. Cast me now. It's not about that. It's not about, things definitely take time. I mean, and to be completely honest, my current manager, I met on Twitter. We just liked each other's philosophies, and we just started commenting, and that was about maybe 4 or 5 months. And then finally I said, hey, can I take a meeting? She was like, yeah, totally. Okay, great. And that's how we started working together. But that was like 4 or 5 months of just being human beings and just liking who each other's, our thoughts and ideas. So things take time.
I'll let Heidi have the last word. I'm sure she's got some amazing stories on how to not be a needy actor. Don't be needy. And like I come back to like it's your life, right? That I don't need something from this person. That I am actually here to add value in so many ways, right? Something Joy said earlier. That I am constantly adding value to other human beings in my life always. It's so ironic. This question is ironic because I'm sitting here, I'm like, what do we do as actors? We study like the emotional intelligence of how to like relate to another human being. Like that's what we study. That's what people are paying us to do. And then we walk in, we meet somebody, we're like, hey, my God, I love you. Can you go hire me? Holy crap. Like that character in a thing would be crazy, you know? Like you'd have to like try to play crazy to do that. So it's like just be a human being and be adding value to people's lives always. Not only with my craft and that, yes, I'm here to add value to you. I'm giving, Heidi has a problem that she needs to solve.
Yeah.
She will get fired if she doesn't solve the problem of who's going to be brilliant in this role. I'm coming in saying that I'm that person. Likewise, I'm adding value with whether it's social media and what I'm putting on Facebook or Twitter, with that I'm, what I'm saying to someone when I meet them at the checkout line at Trader Joe's, that I'm actually adding value to their life. It could be because I'm nice and funny. It'd be because I have a website that they would really like, whatever. But that I'm actually adding value to their life and thinking about them. What would make Heidi's day better? What would make this person's day better, such that I'm adding value?
Ask them questions.
Heidi, do you have any stories of maybe actors you're like,
Just one.
I
Really
can't.
good. Just one.
First of all, you guys are overthinking this way too much, okay? Go to a fucking shrink, all right? It's not about that. I want to see you, about 90% of you will hopefully come in and you're doing your job. It's just part of the job. And it's not like, it's really not as complex, I'm sorry. It's much more about just, yes, of course, there are crazy people who come in and there are people and famous people I could tell you about who have screwed up like this and brought all of their life story and all of their issues and all of that. And that will happen in any job, okay? This job a little bit more because you're all dramatic. But the point is like, the invitation to the party comes, you need to be prepared and ready for that event. And it's multiple events. It's not just one time in your life because this is your career. Right? You have chosen this as a career, so you're going to have other chances. If you fuck up, it's going to sorry.
we'll bleep it later.
And I was doing so good. I was doing so great.
I was trying so hard.
Sorry.
So unfair.
I'm so sorry. You will do okay another time. I mean, we all go through this, all of us. I mean, I have done television, and I hadn't done it for a long time, and I had an opportunity to do a pilot this year. And I went in to meet them, and I thought, oh, great. I was going to get this job because it needed a lot of casting in Europe, and I'm really knowledgeable in that area. And it was, not anything highfalutin, although it was about a subject that was historical. So, of course, I went, like the nerd I am, and go and research all the real people and figure out I want to do it authentic, of course, And, it's the CW. They don't really want that, right? I probably wasn't the right person. And I lost to the person who did a TV show that I thought was way beneath the artist. And I didn't get the job, right? I'm not going to name the show. But the point is probably a little bit, it was me being like an actor being rejected. And I was like, maybe, you know what, I really wasn't that right for it. It's not that great. And it's true, it wasn't really the way I'd probably want to do it. But these opportunities happen, and you know what? The network might call me back for another show, and you know what? I need to go in and be prepared and do it again, because it's good experience for me too. And I think that to a certain extent, if you look at my resume and my credits, you'll see a consistent sort of pattern, because I do work with a certain kind of director and producer, and I think that that's okay, that's great. And I should also at some time spread out a little bit. And that, you know, and if it didn't work this time, maybe it'll work another time. But it wasn't like I went in and I had a bad audition. I just think I wasn't maybe just as right as the more boring choice that they went with.
I do want to be really clear, guys, that with regards to what I said about the desperation stuff, that's when you encounter somebody on what I call that side of the desk, someplace other than a professional meeting. Please be clear on that. I'm not talking about what comes out of your mouth in an audition room or I'm talking about when you encounter someone in life. The thing I was referring to had to do with running into somebody at the dry cleaners or at the park or walking a dog or runyon or at a party or a thing in a place where we wind up in a chat with them, and then they have that sort of icky feeling because we're all up in their grill. I just wanted to clarify that so you weren't confused that I was talking about auditions. Sorry, Jodie.
I would add briefly, no one can reject you. Like, really. Like, they can't reject you unless you let them. Get a little woo on you, but like, no one can reject you. And to me in this interview, like, oh, there's so much rejection. How do you deal with it as an actor? I'm like, there's really not. Rejection would be, you can't be an actor. If you go to med school and you don't get the grades, you know, whatever, or if you don't pass the bar, you can't be a lawyer. You can't. You are rejected. You are not allowed to come into this building and call yourself a lawyer. You're not. You can go and retake it and try again, but you are rejected. You're not allowed to even be here. We don't have that. Could make some strong arguments for probably we should, but we don't. No one can reject you and say you cannot be an actor anymore. And so as a result, if you can, I mean, they could tell you that, but you can still show up and you can still say, hey, I'm an actor. So even just having the mindset of like, yes, I'm looking for the right project, right? And when the CW finds, or that director, whatever, they're like, oh my God, we need a show that's historically accurate, whatever. They're gonna call Heidi and she's gonna get it. She didn't get rejected. They found a different fit. When I hire people for my business, I have 10 of my friends, people I know I would love to hire. They're not the right fit for the employee position I have right now. There's not. I would love to pay them money. They're just not the right fit. I'm gonna keep them in mind for when I can.
What I think happens is we, as actors, and I'm a culprit of this as well, we want people to like us. Let's just be honest, right? We really want people to like us. And when they don't, that's when we go, why? And we target those people. You know, we're like, well, I have to make them like me. Here's the thing. 30% of the people in this world will not like you. Statistically speaking, 30% of the people in this world will not like you. So, yes, so what does that mean?
It's lower than I thought.
Yeah. That's great.
You're like, woo!
70%, oh my God.
Exactly, 70% will. So what happens? We get in these networking events, whatever, we're always trying to make people like us. Let go of that. Find your people. Find the 70% out there that you're gonna click with and merge with, because those are the people you wanna work with anyway.
Screw those 30%.
Because
hate
guys,
those guys.
I speak in a lot of places, and I'm truly sitting here not whether somebody likes me or not. I'm sitting here as somebody who's been here for a long time, who has seen that movie a lot. And I'm telling you, when you realize dating is subjective in timing, casting and representation is subjective in timing. I mean, I kid you not, years ago I got a phone call, dude, you were very close, you almost got it, but they win Asian female.
You were so close.
Now, if you would like to explain how I was close, white guy, Asian female, if you cannot function in this industry, in this business, you can function as a performer all you want, but you can't function as a business person who is a product for sale. If you believe that them deciding to go Asian female when I was one of the last 2 people being discussed, I did my job. I did a good job and they liked me. They just decided on that day to go Asian female. If you're going to take that as rejection, I'm going to encourage you to do this as a hobby.
Couple more questions. This one, kind of in this vein, is as actors we're required to be bring emotional life to characters, but sometimes we take that into our business world, and it causes us not. I'm making Ben laugh. I appreciate this. Long-term thinking. How as you as actors in a business mindset continually think long-term and not about whether I'm going to impress Heidi this one time or not. Or, oh, no. You're just our example here, Heidi. But just the idea of how do we think long-term, because it is subjective. And this, I think, and I love your stories because I think casting's the same way. It is a subjective business, and so how do you have a long-term mindset to keep going and not eat the Haagen-Dazs and quit in 5 months?
Well, I really do believe a lot about that you chose to go into this profession and you have trained to go into this profession. Not just that you're beautiful and you showed up at Hollywood and Vine, because that only goes so far. You know. So I believe that if you have trained and you believe in yourself and you have gone through a process, because you had to, this is a hard business to be in. And I disagree a little bit about the rejection, because you will be rejected. It's just not you as a person being rejected. You might be rejected for many roles until you find the right role, but it doesn't happen overnight for people. It really doesn't. And yeah, there might be, yes, a few exceptions to that rule. So you need to believe in yourself 110%. And that is what is going to guide you to keep doing it. So you start off, you get the training that you need to choose this profession, and then if you commit to this profession, it's not like you can just go out and find a job. I mean, I wrote about this in Backstage a few weeks ago. I had read a piece in the New York Times by Thomas Friedman. It was an opinion piece about how, 20, 30 years ago, we would graduate college and we would look for a job. Today we live in a different era. We can create our jobs. It's not just that simple. Yes, there are some recruitment companies, but Procter & Gamble might be there, but it's not the same as it was. And as an actor, we are always having to self-create. We're always having to do that. So I think you're ultimately really well trained for this world, where many people now have to create their own jobs, because every time you create that role, every time you create an audition, you have created something yourself, and that is part of your job. So sticking to that plan and knowing that you're going to have to get a day job or a night job to finance that, and being committed to it, and set yourself a goal like they're talking about, put it out there for a few years. After that, maybe you do reassess. Maybe it is a great hobby, and that's okay. I mean, there's some fantastic people who have who've come and done community theater, and they're happy and fulfilled because they still have their craft. They're maybe not working professionally, being paid as actors, and that it's not going to happen for everybody because it's really, really hard. There's 155,000 members of SAG. How many of those, SAG-AFTRA, excuse me, how many people are working fully and earning a living just from being an actor? It's really difficult. So we all have to kind of cobble together. And we live in an age where we can at least be, DIY and find other ways to do it and find other things to fulfill yourselves. But if you are committed actors and committed artists and you're willing to stay in the game long enough, it will pay off. It is a lot. I see people, like Kevin would say earlier, about dropping off. There are many, many people that I can think of that I've met over the years who have dropped out of it because it's hard. But if you're truly committed, you have had the training, and you 100% believe in yourself, you'll stay in the game. And it is a little bit about survival of the fittest.
Proficiency and confidence. I can't say it loud enough, guys, and you're not going to know how proficient you are unless you put yourself out there enough to have the results to know how proficient you are. And I do think, unfortunately, without putting this on to other people, you have to have borderline cockiness about what you believe in terms of yourself. And I wasn't joking about the hobby thing. There's a vast difference, you guys, in our desire to be performers and our desire to be artistic and our desire to take a piece of material and have fun with it. There's a vast chasm between that for us artistically and the reality of the fact that we are a product and we're a thumbnail and we're for sale. There's a long way between those gaps, and for 22 years of my life I've been trying to help our community bridge that gap because it is so decimating to our psyche and our emotions sometimes for people who've been actors far longer than I was, because I came into this business late by definition at 24 years old. So I just am begging you to understand that you have to be so proficient and believe it so much when you walk into her room in a small thing with a camera and 2 people sitting over that barely acknowledge your presence, or even worse, in a commercial callback where there's 8 people there, they're all in the room, they're all eating bagels and on their laptop at the callback. And that's just what you're dealing with. You have to have that, and again, from a longevity standpoint, look, you may have come here with career in mind. You may have been here for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years now, but I'm a big advocate of, look, whatever you decide you can do, be clear about it, make a decision. Leaving Los Angeles or leaving this business is not about in any way, shape, form, or fashion being a failure. It has nothing to do with the performer part. So if you reach a place where you really would like to be a fabulously talented person doing, community theater in Moore Park or La Mirada or back in Nashville, where I'm from, please do so, because I've been here a long time. Hollywood is not for everybody.
Yeah, it takes passion and persistence. Passion and persistence is what's going to give you longevity in this business. But let me ask, do you know any bitter, jaded actors?
No hands up, really?
No? None? Anybody? Raise your hand. Is anyone in here a bitter, jaded actor? Look, we've all been there, right? The reason why that happens is because we've lost touch with your passion of what it is that you want. You're talking about long-term vision versus the day-to-day. You need to hold on to that long-term goal of why the heck you're here, because if you don't, it becomes harder. If you know why you're doing it, the day-to-day becomes so much easier. So you gotta tap into that must and that passion, and it is a balancing act of where you wanna go and where you are. And sometimes when you look at where you are and where you wanna go, you're like, oh my God, that's a big chasm. Right? But if you have that passion and persistence and the wherewithal to pursue that and persevere through that, you can do it. But we got to hold on to that big vision of what you really want and go after it. But this is not a business for the faint of heart. It's not.
I would say a couple things. One, being knowledgeable and researching what is the time frame to get the goals are that you say you have. Go on IMDb, go look up your favorite actors, look how long it took them from their first credit to the first credit you recognize, and assume that probably they didn't get their first credit the day they moved here. Yeah. I'm a fan of Malcolm Gladwell. Outliers, 10,000 hours, 10 years. Pick any profession. We're not special. Not that you're not making progress along the way, but to get to what most of us hold as a specific goal, it takes freaking time. And do your research. Go look at the people, ask the people you know, get as many data points as you can about how long did it take you to get an agent? How long did it take you to get an agent? And get that data and just start looking at okay, what is even just a semblance of reality around how long it might take me to get to where I want to go, to get an agent, to book my first co-star, to be a series regular, to be the lead in a feature, whatever. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, if you're not having fun, what is the point? Seriously. And I hear people all the time, it's like, what do you want to do? I just want to act. Then just act and go live somewhere where you will act literally hundreds of hours more than Brad Pitt, than the most famous actors. You won't get paid for it, and our society needs it. Please do that. There's no shame. It's not, I failed, whatever. There is no shame in doing it as a hobby, in doing it in Poughkeepsie. Oh my God, yes, dear God. That's a funny city name.
I use Peoria a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah,
There's 19 Peorias in the States.
My friend went to school in Poughkeepsie. Anyway, go be an artist. Go perform. Go be an actor. But you will perform way more than you will pursuing a film and television career here in Los Angeles. You will be on stage. You'll actually be acting, performing dozens and dozens, hundreds and thousands of hours more in your life. And so if that's all you want to do is act and perform, then my God, do that. But don't make yourself crazy pretending that you need to do that on TV.
Ooh, Mr. Cotter. Let me take about 4 points, Ben, that I've said to this point, and Heidi commented on one of them that I said earlier, and use that right there. And even if you are here, guys, and going back to the creating your own work and creating your own stuff, and because it's easy now and blah, and my comment about being a filmmaker and wearing 7 hats and the hyphenate and the thing and the blah blah and the hoo-hoo dilly, here's the deal. This is something I would say to this right here. You can still do what Ben just said, and you can still stay in Los Angeles. But this is my comment with regards to professionalism versus just the joy of performing. You can get cameras and friends and a thing and all that stuff and do this all the time. But this is the problem we have. We get something recorded and we think it has business being considered professional demo material when it doesn't. So you can use all this creativity and have all kinds of fun and be in this city, even when you're not booking work or don't have any credits or not making any money yet, and do all that creative stuff and keep yourself and your passion alive. But just because you record something does not mean it should be up someplace for her to see it. And that, by the way, is my number one comment and thing in general in this business today in 2013, is what the availability of digital technology has done to our perception of what is professional level work for someone to see. So you can do a lot of stuff. It can just be apprenticeship stuff. It can just be self-workshop. They can be having a lot of fun creatively. It's cool to keep you fed and keep you happy. But it doesn't mean it should be on a website for somebody to be able to judge you by it.
Heidi said earlier, if you don't like auditioning, like, don't be an actor here. If you're not enjoying the process and having fun, like, it's not going to work, because we have this go like, oh, as soon as I get an agent, like, I'll be happy. As soon as I book that role, I'll be happy. As soon as I'm a guest star, I'll be happy. As soon as I'm a series regular, right? Well, as soon as I'm nominated for an Emmy, as soon as I win an Emmy, as soon as I'm not making, right? It never stops. And that's the beauty of this career, is that it never stops, and we can continue to get better and continue and go on. Awesome. But if you're not enjoying yourself along the way, that one job, the biggest, then you get that goal and you win the Oscar. You spent maybe 3 months on set doing it. You had the award ceremony, and what do you do the next day? Go for another job, okay? So if you're not enjoying that process, then, like, really, what's the point? Do it as a hobby, do it here, do it whatever, but don't make yourself crazy. I just got to do this thing, and I'm going to spend all my time and energy and effort so that I can book the whatever. That's not going to make you happy. And
I had a guy say to me years ago that I was consulting, and he was very talented. He was a New York guy, had a great theater background. Heidi I'm sure the guy was fabulous. He literally said to me, "Every day I don't have an audition, I die." And I'm all right. I'm already kind of an edgy guy, you might have noticed. And I thought to myself, holy shit, I don't want to be in your head, because I'm with you philosophically and kind of as an idea, but in reality of your world, oh my God, that's going to be a tough week to get through in, I don't know, like now, May, June of every year. I mean, I felt for him. I didn't know what to say. I was just like, oh, okay. Okay. I mean, that's why you got to have a life and a thing, and be careful with that die all or nothing, careful.
Okay, last thing, we're going to start with Heidi and go down the row. Last nugget of information thing you want to leave us with, and I'm going to ask Kevin that you cover the demo reel thing. Does that make sense of, like, what you consider quality demo? I'm going to ask you to hit that.
You're making my last thing your thing? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
just saying. No, it's completely fine. It's completely fine.
It covers some questions. That's why I'm asking you. So Heidi, you want to start maybe one last nugget to leave us with?
I think is just to be true to yourself, you know, and decide if this is what you're doing, then you're going to do it 110%. And really, that means that you have to research everything. You have to know what's going on in the world. You have to use every available resource for yourself. You do need a good demo reel. That is important. Which he'll talk to you about, apparently, and a picture that looks like you. And one little nugget, this is totally simple, and yet I see actors forget it all the time. I guess I did a couple of campaigns this year. Again, I'm more of a theatrical casting director, but I do commercials sometimes. 90% of the actors who came in did not bring in a picture and headshot. And I had asked my assistants to please put that on there, please let them know. 90%, I would say, did not bring in a picture and headshot, stapled. Please have it stapled. I want to know your resume. That's your life in front of me. How am I going to remember you if you don't bring that in? I mean, I'm going to videotape you. It's amazing to me that actors, that's the simplest thing that you should have. remember every time, bring it around. It's not just the fact that, oh, your beautiful headshot that you spent so much money to put together, which is now this thumbnail on our computer screen. It's like ridiculous. It's not easy for me to remember that. It is much easier if I see your whole picture. And that resume, that's like a simple thing that I can't believe how many actors don't bring.
Use the app Waze to avoid traffic. W-A-Z-E, it avoids traffic. That's one, and just be happy. Seriously, life's too short. Be good to each other. It is a community business. We support each other. Leave the world a better place.
If you want it, do whatever it takes. Do it. Stop making excuses about everything. Stop living in fear. Don't let fear hold you back. Stop self-sabotaging. If you want to get seen for that audition, you know what? Get the high quality camera. Get that thing. Make sure it's good lighting. Make sure it's good sound. Make sure it's good, all of that. But put yourself on tape. Get your agent or your manager to get it to the casting director. Get it to the director. Do whatever it takes. Stop complaining that no auditions are coming in and you sit at home. You can do it. There's so much technology now at our fingertips. There is. We've talked about that. Use it in the right way to help yourself and move forward. Do whatever it takes.
I just wanted to say one thing before you did
Go
this,
for it.
and it's a shout out. Actually, because I volunteer every year. I run a project for Big Sunday. Big Sunday is it's the city. It's not only the city. I think it's like the largest community service day weekend anywhere in the United States. And this year I did a project, and it was down in MacArthur's Park. And all of a sudden I had these volunteers that I didn't know who they were. They didn't sign up on my website. And there were these fantastic girls who were actresses and models, and they're part of Earth Angels. And they said that, they had heard about it through this community. I was also doing it it was for a place called Mama's Tamales, and that is a nonprofit tamale restaurant in MacArthur Park that we were supporting, and St. Anne's, which is an organization for women at risk who have young children. And these Earth Angel girls totally inspired me. They were actresses I will remember, okay? Because what they said is, oh, we just really want to, we're so busy in ourselves all the time. We want to go out and just volunteer and do things. And they had the best spirit about it. They weren't, trying to impress anybody doing anything, because I think you have to be connected to your community, your acting community, and your world around you, and also have something else to do, like everyone has been saying. But if it's even just volunteering, I just was really inspired by them.
I'll give you two, Kevin, since I'm making you do demo reel if you want to do something else too.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding, man.
I'm teasing you.
I'm just going to try and have to be really fast. Okay. Everybody go with me on this. Would everybody in this room like to have better demo material? Or at least 90-some% in the room? Okay. Back when I moved here, what we did back in the day, and I was one of the people who did this, was I produced my own showcase that we held at the Tiffany Theater, which is now the Actors Studio on Sunset. And, 2 nights in February and 2 nights in August, and we auditioned actors and we fired people, and we were hard line, but it had a reputation because the people at it were good. It's kind of part of what led to some of my initial television work. But today, if I move to Los Angeles today, I'm telling you, despite everything I've said up here so far, the only thing that I would be concerned about from the standpoint of a tool, and of course there's lots of those tools underneath this, is having 60 to 120 seconds that she couldn't stop watching as a complete stranger and never have met me. This is what happens to us. We really do short the actual process of what it is to shoot that. And then what we do, because we have 2 friends, a Starbucks and a thing, the next thing you know, we finish a coffee and we're doing a 10-episode web series. Guys, if you want good demo material, take time, pre-production, plan it. It should take you 6 months to put this together. You need to find people. There are people all over the city who are well-heeled and well-resumed camera people, lighting people that would work for $100 a day. You guys all know those Crash the Super Bowl Doritos commercial? Okay, now I've been in this business a long time and I understand this stuff really well. I still don't call myself a filmmaker. I did one of those, 30-second commercial. I got 1 second of a piece of footage wrong with lighting, and I got 2 good comments from judges, but I knew it wasn't going to make the finals. That was a 30-second spot, and I spent $1,000 to do it right, to have makeup there, to have the worst thing in the world, sound, being done properly. So when you look at this and you think about how much we have to shoot to have something of value, you need to spend time finding 3 pieces of material that are from film, as far as I'm concerned, way back in the day. Don't write it yourself. You need 20 seconds. You know how long 20 seconds is? If I make you guys stand up and just stare at us for 20 seconds, it's an eternity. So if you needed to have 20 seconds as an edited piece of meat on a particular type and emotional value for your demo reel, how much do you think you need to shoot of a scene to get 20 seconds out of it? 2 minutes? Shoot 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and 2 minutes in one day on a weekend and get the stuff professionally edited and do it right, because we have turned the concept of needing demo material like I did back in the day. I did 14 student films. Well, guys, 92% of the 14 student films on camera was shite. I mean, it wasn't good because they're students. Okay, so you guys tell me, what's the difference between a 19-year-old student at USC and you if you've never picked up a camera before in your life? You don't have the word I used a second ago, proficiency. You have no experience. You have no background. You don't have background managing this whole thing while you're supposed to be acting in it. Guys, I've been watching demo reels literally since 1988. I have watched thousands of them. And we leave out the very core thing that we need, other expertise and proficient help, and we tend to bite off more than we can chew because it seems like a good idea. If you want just demo material, realize you need 20 seconds of one type and one emotional value, times 3, 1 minute, boom. But to get that, stop trying to do a web series and find people to pay attention to lighting, sound, and run the camera, and have somebody there who has some directing ability to make sure that you're getting the coverage you have to have the singles and the stuff you're going to need. Because if you count on someone's project, you got to remember, they're the filmmaker, they're the executive producer. What they shoot, how they cover, that's up to them. We just have to hope, just like you do on network television, Desperate Housewives, I'm in the middle of shooting and it's like, well, I'm not going to be in this shot at all, because you can just see it happening to you. It's not your choice. You still get paid, you got the job, you get the thing, that's your job. But I'm not going to get to use it for demo material. That's what happens to us. So if you want to control it, then I'm just encouraging you to make it as simple as you can, because that's at the end of the day what we need. We need a minute that causes somebody literally, when they push play, to do nothing more than this. Be interested enough to metaphorically lean in and actually watch it. And it takes a lot more time and a lot more effort to just get those 20 seconds than you really realize it does. And that's why a lot of the stuff you see done and maybe you're a part of just comes up short. And I can only tell you, people are destroying their careers by putting this stuff up. And let me make this last comment about YouTube or any distribution mechanism. Please remember, guys, if you do a project, just because you answer a call on LA Casting or someplace and you go do a project and someone hires you and you go shoot it, whatever it may be, ultra low, but that does not give them the right to air it on YouTube. Unless you signed a waiver, just like we do in our contracts, letting go of our getting paid for giving somebody the rights to our image, likeness, sound, and blah, blah. Just because somebody shoots something, if you think it stinks and they put it up on YouTube, you send YouTube an email, it'll be gone tomorrow. So don't think that just because they shot something and hired you, that they have a right to publicly distribute it to the world. They don't.
A lot of information. Let's give them a hand. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys.